Hey guys, it's me, Patrice Bobo-Miles, and welcome back to Perspectives. Today, my guest is Mariann Alda. So, Mariann, I would love for you to just take a minute and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Just a minute, Patrice.
We know you.
That's
It's
all I
been
get is
longer
a
than
minute.
you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
There's so much to tell. Okay. I am an actress and a positive aging activist. That's really my jam right now. Uh, Mostly because as I've gotten older, I've been acting less and less, not by my choice. So it's like I'm going to be an activist, proactive for me and all the women my age, because if I don't do it, who will? And if I don't do it, I won't work. So there is a vested interest in my being a positive aging activist. But there also is a sense of social responsibility to do it too,
Mhm.
because after 30 years of making my living as an actor, uh, the casting director stopped calling me and I became a hypnotherapist. And I started working with women who are experiencing midlife depression. And I quickly realized that we have all been hypnotized into believing that women lose value and social and sexual currency as we get older. So it's kind of become my mission to change that paradigm on women and aging, because what we see on the screen informs our subconscious mind and our belief systems. And then we internalize that. And then we feel bad because we see these old people on the screen being the butt of the jokes and being all broke down and toe up. And I go like, no, 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 no. That is not good for our mental health. And as a matter of fact, this is one hell of a long introduction for myself, isn't it? I kind of go off on tangents, but I'm going to come back. Uh, there was a study that was done by Becca Levy at Yale University. And people who have a positive self image about getting older live on average 7.5 years longer than people who have a negative self image.
Mhm.
So it's like, the life you save may be your own. I'm going to make sure that I say positive about getting older. And by the way, I am 74 years old, born May 7th, 1948. I've started an Instagram initiative called Say Your Age, because I think we have to take the shame out of getting older. Women say, "Oh, I'm a woman of a certain age," or
Mhm.
we get very coy about. Okay, that's because we don't want to say our age. So I figure if you just say it loud and say it proud, eventually that stigma will be detached from it, because w- people are living longer
Mhm.
than they were back in the early 1900s. We've added to our lifespan. You don't want to spend the entire second half of your life feeling bad about yourself. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Right.
So anyway, so that's my introduction to myself. Oh, and let me plug this before I will forget about it. Um, I am now. It's December. Yes, I have been introduced as a new character on the NBC Peacock soap opera The Bay. And I've got a little 3 episode story arc to be continued when we go back and shoot more episodes. But yeah, I'm back, y'all. I'm back on TV.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, so let's talk about how that has gone full circle because for people who don't know, couple of things. You guys know that I usually end up pulling people in here that I know and know a little bit something about. Um, Mariann was Dee Dee Bannister. And I don't know if any of you remember The Edge of Night, but I certainly remember The Edge of Night. And I'm hoping I get this right, but don't worry. If I don't, she will correct me and it's all good. But Mariann, you were like the first Black female heroine.
No, I wasn't the first. I think Debbie Morgan would take issue with that. I
Okay,
think
well,
Ella.
let's not have Debbie Morgan come after me. That's why I said,
Okay.
I mean, you would correct me if I
I
was
think
incorrect.
I think Ellen Holly might take issue with that.
Okay, well, see,
Um,
that's that. Yeah,
but
you got a couple of years on me, so that was before I started watching soap operas. So I
oh, okay,
apologize to anyone who I got that wrong on. However, how long was your role on the Edge of Night? And at that point in time, there were not a whole lot of women who had roles that depicted Black females as intelligent and savvy, and
and I played a lawyer. I
and
played a
like
lawyer.
a
I
lawyer.
was a
You
Black
weren't a
professional.
housekeeper, you weren't any of those things. You
I,
were a lawyer.
I wasn't around the way girl.
Right, right.
um, yeah, I came on the show in 1981, and the show went off the air in 1985, and
To this day,
it
still
was
one of my favorite soap operas.
oh, well, it's on YouTube. People, we have it's a lot of fans,
Really?
and
I didn't know it was
yes,
still it was
no, I mean they keep the fans
yeah.
collected. It's almost like trading cards. They trade episodes because they tape them on their VCRs, and then they post them on YouTube. So
Mhm.
I have fans who weren't even born when the show was originally on
Isn't
the
that
air.
cool?
But it's because that show is very noir, the kind of like a Perry Mason
Mhm.
mystery drama. It wasn't your typical soap opera. And because it was a drama, I played a lawyer, so I was involved in all kinds of stuffs. I mean, and then I had a love interest. I will say that I was one of the first, along with Angie and Jesse. Calvin and Dee Dee are a
Mhm.
very popular super couple, Black soap opera super couple, and people still remember that that show. Well, I have a solo show
Mhm.
called
You're allowed to say it on here.
Getting Old as a Bitch, but I'm gonna wrestle that bitch to the ground.
Right.
And whenever I've done my solo show, or I also do stand up, whenever I do stand up, people who are old enough to remember that character always come up to me and they remember me as Dee Dee. I don't care what I've done since then.
Mhm.
That character is deeply ingrained in people's minds as Dee Dee Bannister. And I take a lot of personal s- satisfaction from that. The fact that I was able to, I have this fantasy, Patrice, that
Uh-oh.
that Michelle Robinson, now Michelle Obama,
Mhm.
used to come home and watch because she's the right age now, and used to watch me after school and say, "I want to be a lawyer like Dee Dee." So Michelle, if you're listening, call me. I want to know: is it anybody who knows her, who grew up with her? Did y'all watch me after when you came home from school? I want to know that. Okay. So anyway, which is quite possible, by the way,
Right,
because
right.
there weren't that many uh, Black female characters on soaps at that time, and there still really aren't.
Mhm.
We still have to make, and it has always been very, very important to me to portray. Let me put it this way. I would never. I've turned down work. I don't want to do anything that would embarrass my parents or my
Mhm.
child or now my grandchildren.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want it to be anything that I do to be uplifting. And I mean, it could be funny, it could be risque, it could be, me, I'm a little bawdy.
Look.
So, we're not going to take that. You're not going to just totally sanitize any character that I do.
Right.
But anything that I do as an actor, I want it to be about something. I want it to
Right.
be more than just I want it to be more than just entertainment. But you know what? Just entertainment serves its own purpose.
It
So
does.
so I will say, but I don't want it to be anything that denigrates
Mhm.
women or people of color
Mhm.
or older people.
Mhm.
It has to be something that, you know,
Proud of.
yeah, proud of. And
Proud to
because
represent.
if you want to as a black, it's like any character that I play, you can laugh at the character, but you're laughing with the character, not at the character. You
No, I
know?
know exactly what you're saying. I mean, there's a level, and I've talked a little bit about the entertainment industry and how it's kind of evolved over the years that you've been involved with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, there was a point in time, and some would say that this is still an issue. We already know that representation matters, and that Black and brown people are totally are underrepresented in the entertainment industry, although we're seeing great strides with that happening. And, for so many years, that representation was negative connotations of what the who and what the Black female was, right?
Right.
She was
Right.
always she was always a hustler baby. She was a prostitute. She was she was a whole lot of things that don't necessarily represent who was strong, self-aware, um, Black woman represents. So no, I can totally, understand where you're coming from. And,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you would have this Dee Dee Bannister character, at the age that you had her, right? And you got to develop who she was. She probably became a really good friend to you at that point in time and through your life. But you now find yourself, where you're at an age, I think you told me 74,
Yep.
and you are back working, on a soap opera. So that's like totally full circle, right? And in between all of that happening, you have become, this advocate for aging gracefully and aging shamelessly, and true representation of what an older female looks like. Because it's only just recently, and for me, recently is 3 to 5 years ago, that you started hearing, um, you know, big voices in the entertainment industry, Meryl Streep coming out and saying, the roles aren't there for women of my age. Laura Derney talking about, after I hit this age, they wanted me to play someone's mother, and the male was my age, and the love interest had to be 10 or 15 years younger. So, what you were talking about, and in embracing, what that older is, and doing it with your own sense of style, and your own sense of self, and your own sense of panache. Because I can tell you, I would never want to live my 20s again, right? But no, but when I hit my 40s, there was just this kind of coming into who I was, and what that looked like. And man, after I turned 50, it's like somebody took the brakes off, right? And my kids are like, "Mom, you don't have a filter." I'm like, "I didn't have a filter in my 40s." And they're like, "Yeah, but it's worse." And I'm like, yeah, I know. But you know what I hear, and I saw something today that says, there's a point in time where you've lived long enough that I know it's crazy, but do you really have to have that filter? Because you're still embracing who you are, right? And you have enough years, enough wisdom, enough life experience that there's something you have to offer. And what is that unfiltered conversation, right?
Well, it's called you don't give a fuck because you have no more fucks to give. You've
That
given
part.
them all. You've given them all. You've done over, moving right along. That's it.
Yeah.
You've earned the right to say, look, I don't have to do this. You've earned your no. You've
Mhm.
earned your right to say, I don't think so. No.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
and that's a really good place to be. Yeah.
It's a great place to be. It is a great place to be. So tell me, because I know you have been interviewed for AARP, and so you want to tell everybody, because I might have a younger demographic who's like, "What is AARP?" And
Well, it,
what did that? What was that article about? And um, part two of my question is, when you took up this mantle, how many people jumped on board with you? And how has that grown into what it is now?
I think a lot of people jumped on board because they related to it.
Mhm.
I just have I have no filter either, and I have a really like I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to say what I have to say. So I think I'm speaking for a lot of people. And once I said it or came up, other people say, "Yeah, you're right." And, you know, there were women who were very trepidatious about saying their age out loud, you know, and once they did, they found freedom in it. That's why my handle on Instagram is Mariann Alda underscore aging shamelessly,
Mhm.
because we have to take the shame out of getting older. Why is there you know, being a black person, it's like anything that was growing up as a little colored girl, because we were the little colored girls in the 50s. There was, you know, we were considered less than, or or to be uh aspirational, was you wanted to be more like white. You know, that was the aspiration. Be more like, you know, this, that, and the other thing. We sort of took all the corners off of the culture, and it kind of just that homogenization was just made you less of who you are, which is what I think is fabulous now, because we are celebrating our culture and owning it.
Mhm.
And that's why I hate the word minority. I ain't no minor nothing. I am not a minority. I believe in ethnic diversity,
Mhm.
but minority, because there's certain words that they mean one thing intellectually, but in your subconscious, you say minor, I am a minority, then you start feeling like I'm like a minor person.
Mhm.
And that's so I am no, I don't like the word minority. I like ethnic diversity. You know, well, what are you? I'm Marianne. That's what I am. And I feel the same way about getting older. We have been marginalized,
Mhm.
and I'm all about coloring outside of the lines and expanding the margins so that we are all, you know, part of this same thing. I was going to say something. We were talking earlier. It went right out of my mind.
You know, I
It
understand that.
might
So
come
I
back.
understand that happening. You know, it's interesting because I am typically kind of edgy with how I dress. You know, I have this certain edge that I like. And interestingly enough, I had something on the other day, and you know, I'm fortunate that both of my parents are still, you know, with us, and they're 88 years old. And my mother said, "You're too old to wear that." And I went, "What?" And she says, "You're too old for that." And I said, "I think too old for to wear something kind of depends on whether or not I'm comfortable in it. Do I feel like it um, looks good on me? And am I wearing it? And it's not wearing me, right?
Right.
Because there is still a level because what cracks me up is that, you know, especially in depictions of women as we get older, you know, we're depicted as all of a sudden we're frumpy,
Right.
and you know, our clothes have no shape, and we lose a sense of, you know, a sense of style, a sense of self, right? All of a sudden you're not, you know, you're not this vibrant, whoever you want to call vibrant. And so we start to feed into the looking older, you know, dressing older. And dressing older for some people is, you know, the moo and the oversized dresses with the high waistlines, and you know, so it is interesting to me that, you know, I'm 56. And so it's interesting to me that my 88-year-old mother would look at me and go, "You're too old for that." And I just was kind of like taken aback, because style and fashion are style and fashion, whether you're 25, 26, 36, 56. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, have your mother watch the documentary on Rito Moreno
I
at
love Rita
90.
Moreno.
Okay, at 90 in
Right,
her leather pants
right.
and her leather everything and her dangling earrings. And it's like, no, 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 no. And I dare your mother to run into Rita Moreno and say, oh, you too old for that. Oh, hell no. If you can
Oh, but
wear
she
it,
don't have a filter at 88. She's gonna say what she's gonna say, regardless of who it is.
well, you know what? Then Rita might slap her, so it's like, but anyway, I think, people who say that, they've internalized society's stereotype of what it is to get older. And your mother is older, so she's been exposed to that stereotype for a lot longer. So she's internalized that. So she's projecting onto you what she heard back in the day. But it's
Possibly.
a new day. Okay? It's a new day. And she's your mother. And I don't know what your mother-daughter relation dynamic is, but
Oh, me and my mom get along great. The
okay, all
problem
right.
is we're probably too much alike.
Oh, okay. Well then she means well. But
Yes.
so she
Absolutely
can say, but doesn't mean you have to. It's like, okay, mom, whatever. And then you just wear what it is that you want to wear.
I do.
Good. Yes, Patrice, from how I've got to know you, I don't think that you really care. Because whatever makes you feel good, when you're wearing something that makes you feel good, you kind of throw your shoulders back and you get a little swagger. And every woman should have that. Every woman should be able to feel good about herself. And if she doesn't, she really needs to work on that.
Right? I
It's
agree
not
with
that
you.
external message. And also make sure who you surround yourself with.
Mhm.
It's like, for example, most of my friends, like you, are younger than me.
Mhm.
And that's because some of my women friends that I went to college with, for example, and I hope they're not watching this.
Cool.
I'm sorry, but you know who I'm talking to. Not all of you, but you know who I'm talking to. Think, because they
Just say it,
settled
Mariann. Just
settled
say it.
into that mindset of feeling like, okay, I'm old now and I whatever, and it affects your body language.
Mhm.
It affects your posture, and you kind of make yourself smaller. No, take a deep breath, throw those shoulders back, walk into okay. There's this whole thing now that about older women saying that they feel invisible.
Mhm.
Really? If it's not because you're older that you feel invisible, it's because you've decided to make that choice to be invisible. Because if you want to be seen, you can be seen. So don't blame it on, oh, I feel invisible. A lot of times, those are women of privilege who have been, like maybe pretty girls when they were growing up, or didn't have to, they were just looking at walking into the room and just having people say, "Ooh, look at them." Well, guess what? When you get older, you can't rely on that. You got to have some shit going on, okay? You have to be, you just can't be, no, you have to have some shit going on. You have to have a personality. You have a sense of style. You got to have something to say, okay? And if you don't, I have a TED Talk. In my TED Talk, I say, as you get older, find something that lights your fire,
Mhm.
something that you're passionate about. Because when you are on fire, you are not invisible.
Mhm.
So if you're an older woman and you're feeling invisible, shame the fuck on you. That's all I have to say. Shame on you. And make a choice to be seen. Now, when you make that choice, a lot of times people will criticize, like your mother saying to you, well, I don't you think you're too old for that. I don't you think don't let anybody else decide who you are and how you want to be seen. But be prepared to have some criticism.
Mhm.
People are going to criticize you. Do you want to live your life by somebody else's standards?
Right.
No.
Say that one
No.
time. Do you want to live your life by somebody else's standards, right?
Right.
Because when we're kids, at least in the house I grew up in, we were accountable
Yep.
for our actions, for our grades. Our only job was to go to school and get good grades. And if we didn't get good grades, we were accountable for the reasons behind why we weren't, and then correcting whatever that behavior was. And I'm talking, from elementary school to high school and into college. We were responsible for the words that came out of our mouth, how we spoke not only to each other but to our elders. At that point in time, there was a level, there was a true deference and respect that elders naturally received just for the fact that they were older, right? I don't know how much that is truly taught anymore. And it's okay. Life changes, people change. But, we move into our 20s, we take a job still not really knowing who we are, right?
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
get married, we have children, we become somebody's wife, we become somebody's mother. Whether you do it in your 20s, you do it in your 30s, you do it in your late 30s. And that's a whole different shift, because then you've got to kind of learn, you've got to learn not to get lost in being a wife and mother, because there's more to you as a person than being a wife and mother, right?
Right.
And if you're still working, you're juggling what all that is and trying to make sure that you're still maintaining your sense of self, right?
Right.
And so, as we grow, we start to learn that we're accountable to ourselves. And, like I said, when I hit 40 is when it really hit me. And there was so much that I just said, you know what? I don't have to do that anymore.
Nope.
I don't have to accept that attitude. I don't have to exhibit this behavior, and so the stuff that worked, I kept, and the stuff that didn't work, I threw out. The people who built me up, I kept. The people who did not, I stepped away from and continued to grow what that circle of and that caliber of person and friend are. And so it's my opinion that you don't, as you get older, is where those types of wisdoms come in. So when you get to be, our ages, there is a certain level of, sis, just listen to me for a minute. Let me save you. Let me save you some heartache. Right? And how many times have you and I talked, and I'm still in my 50s. I'm closer to 60 at this point in time, but I'm still in my 50s and you're in your 70s. And certainly there are times that, you and I have talked and I'm like, and you give me a great deal of wisdom and perspective that you have at 70 that I don't have I don't have in my 50s. And I wish people really cherished what that is.
But you know something, Patrice? I think the way that wisdom is dispensed is important. And I know a lot of old people who are not wise. So that's not something that, you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, and they've reached this age, because you mentioned, young people and the respect that came naturally, that
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be uh that doesn't seem to be the norm right now. At least I've heard complaints. I am so tired of the generational wars.
Right?
That it's and my generation, baby boomers, you know, these millennials, these young people, you know what? Have you talked to them? That discrimination works both ways. That, hey boomer, it's like it depends on how you come to a younger person.
Mhm.
I don't come to a younger person like, well, I am the know-it-all and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
We are peers, especially as an actor working in a creative industry. You're working, age doesn't make any difference. These are your peers. And when you come to people like this, and you say, and you might have a little bit more to say, but you come to them as an equal, as a peer, they will listen. You know, just because I am a woman of a certain age, I command respect for who I am as a human being,
Right.
but my age doesn't enter into it. It's like
Mhm.
I was the same person that I was at 6. It's like, no, 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 no. You do not talk to me that way. You
Mm.
know, because that's the way I was raised, you know, old people wisdom back in the day. I remember coming home from school one day and I was crying about something because somebody had, I don't know what happened. It was something at school. My mother said, "Don't you ever come home crying to me anymore. Because if somebody makes you cry, you better pick up a brick or a stick and beat the shit out of them." He said, "Cause he said if you don't, then I'm gonna whoop your ass." Okay, that was my Mississippi
Right.
mama.
Right.
So I learned very early on that you were going to respect me. Nobody was going to make me cry
Mhm.
because if I did, that was on me,
Mhm.
And I think that we need to all feel that way about themselves,
Mhm.
whether about what is it that Joe Biden says? He said that I think it was his father said to him, "Remember, nobody is better than you, and you are no better than anybody else."
Right. Right. I love it. Well, we have spent some time chatting about a whole lot
Okay.
of different
Was it?
topics.
I think, is that our time? Is that
But
my time?
I mean, you and I have spent, heaven forbid we call each other. I think it's easily an hour and a half conversation. And, I really just kind of wanted to bring you to perspectives because, again, I love what you said about coming at somebody and just listening, because that's so much a part of the communication process in itself. And respecting who you are and understanding, and knowing what is acceptable and unacceptable as far as how people treat you, how you treat people, and who you're going to let be a part of your circle. So um, I'm
You
glad.
can't go wrong if you lead with love.
I'm so glad, that you agreed to come on and do this with me today. And I am hoping that, through our conversation that somebody, whoever, is listening or watching, picked up something today that, helps to, answer some questions on what their journey is, right?
Okay.
So I appreciate everyone for, stopping in today and spending some time with me and with Mariann. And I invite you to come back for our next episode of Perspectives. As always, your day is what you make it. So choose to make your day a great day.
I will.